Listener discretion is advised.
You are listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where three friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
Oh, golly gee.
Oh, yeah.
I am getting hooded up.
Amanda's getting cozy. I'm also wearing a hoodie, but my hair might be too big to wear the hood.
I'm so
my messy
tired.
bun might be too large.
Oh, God.
You got a big bun.
You have a cumbersome bun. A cummerbun.
I do have
Cumberbun.
I have a cummerbund. I'm Kenyon with the big hair.
I'm Lucy with the thinnest hair on the planet.
I'm exhausted. And I'm Amanda. And my hair's mostly not mine. There's the checklist.
She's absconded with a stranger's hair.
Also, I have set a Skype background that you folks on Patreon can't see, but I'm basically inside of a winter wonderland drawn in Microsoft
92.
Paint.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's from Microsoft Paint.
It's
Frozen
amazing.
from 88.
I love it.
All right. Well, we have a very special fan-supported gals pick episode. So
I love
basically,
these.
we have our fan picker, Kristen Aponic. Did I chance Aponic?
I like it.
Yes.
And this is a fan picker who wanted their own episode, but they couldn't think of a topic, and so they gave us a gal's pick, which we
I love
definitely
that.
appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, Kristen, we have selected the topic of if at first you don't succeed, cry again.
Try crime again.
Stab again.
Yeah. So basically I Googled guy tried to kill wife multiple times
Oh, wow.
and found my case.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Perfect.
amazing. I did a totally different approach, and we will get to it.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, should we get right to our wine crime pairing for if at first you don't succeed?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
I
I
have a
mean,
feeling we're going to need some booze for this episode.
Definitely gonna
Lucy
need
is
some booze.
especially enthusiastic because she got to be the gal who does the gal's pick.
Was I
Why?
supposed to look up wine notes? Because
No,
I didn't.
I did that. I did
Okay,
that.
good.
I knew what I knew.
Okay.
I knew. We are drinking today a Lucy favorite Loveblock Sauvignon Blanc. This is a Marlborough Sauv. It is organic. It is gorgeous and delicious.
Love me a Marlboro
Oh,
Sauvignon
yeah.
Blanc.
And this is a true classic Marlborough Sauv. You're going to get that pale straw green and gold color, like hint of green on the pour. You're going to get complex aromas of, a floral bouquet on the nose, but with just a hint of pineapple, a little guava, and sweet meadow grass. Gotta love a grassy Sauv.
You're hitting all my notes. You're checking all my boxes.
You're darn tootin'. And then on the palate, it's nice and rounded. You got some of that pineapple and tropical fruit, but there's a sweet basil edge followed by ripe peach on the back of the palate. You got a nice balanced minerality. It's a little chalky, but not too chalky. And it's nice and complex. So it's just gonna be a stunner. If you're wondering what to pair this with over dinner, seafood, pasta, chicken, oysters.
Also, you're hitting all my notes.
Right? And this is a question we get all the time, but this one is vegan. This is vegan winemaking, so they are not using any fish product in the filtration.
And it says sustainable wine growing.
It is. It's an organic and sustainable vineyard. They are also award winners. They are a 4-star wine. They have 94 points on that wine advisor, whatever. This is a 13.5% ABV, and I believe it's a crack.
Sure is.
Oh, God bless. Lucy, do you want to do the honors today?
I do.
Oh, she
It
do.
also is very fitting in the name because if somebody is very persistent, you might want to
Block their love.
Can't block my
their
love.
My case involves wanting to block some love.
Lucy also inspired me because in the last episode we recorded, which we recorded 30 minutes before this one, she was working on a coloring sheet, and I don't have any coloring sheets, but I found online coloring sheets, and I found a color by numbers of a witch over a cauldron.
Nice.
So I'm going to work on that.
I love color by numbers.
Gonna work
so
on that.
mindless.
I know. And then I'll send you a text of the finished product.
Please do. Are we ready for this crack?
I am so ready.
I didn't lotion my hands immediately beforehand, so
Smart.
I'm already crushing it.
You're
Smart.
a pro.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Grassy pap.
Nice
Oh,
crack.
she smells nice.
Love her. Love that crack.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that beautiful coloring.
Oh, see that pale green?
Yeah, I totally
Green and
see
gold?
it.
Mm-hmm.
I need to order that bottle.
Silver and gold.
I'll send you the link.
Thank you. All right. Well, Lucy, since you're doing both this week, you're like
Get in
a
there.
single mom.
Ah,
What's our background and maybe psych for if at first you don't succeed, crime again?
Crime again. When you said a single mom, I was thinking of that musician in Mary Poppins who has like the cymbals tied to his feet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, the one-man band.
It's the main guy.
Mm-hmm.
Dick
Dick Van Dyke.
Mhm.
But he has that whole like situation happening.
Yep.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be that.
It's a
Okay.
lot.
You can be a one gal band.
You can be that.
Holy shit, this is good.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This might be a repeat on my rotation.
A repeat offender.
I might be wasted by the time we finish this because this is really good. Okay.
Bring it.
Okay, so I Googled persistent killers, and most of the results were like herbicides, like weed killers.
Oh my God, I love that. Please tell me that is what you're going to talk about for the next half hour.
No.
Pesticides.
Fine.
Because I really didn't know what the fuck to research for this topic, I am just going to give an overview of who I would consider to be a persistent killer, a serial killer.
Oh, okay.
And we've discussed serial murderers before. We've done Eastern European serial killers. We've done Australian serial killers. And one other one. I can't remember. But I don't know if we've just covered like serial killers.
Sure.
You know what? Even if we have, whatever.
There's always more room for serial killers.
I think so. So this is from my boyfriend Britt, Encyclopedia Britannica. Serial murder, also called serial killing, is the unlawful homicide of at least two people carried out by the same person or persons in separate events occurring at different times. This definition has shifted over time. Like
And
it used
my-
to be.
My
Sorry?
case is like the exact opposite of that. So it's multiple attempts on
Yeah.
the same victim by the same person.
I figured that would be the case for your cases, but I just like, I don't know how I was supposed to research that. Although this definition is widely accepted, the crime is not formally recognized in any legal code, including that of the United States. So
That's interesting.
you won't see in any like legislation, like laws, the term serial killer.
Yeah, you can't be charged with serial
killing,
You're just
yeah.
charged with murder multiple times.
Yep.
Yeah. So the term serial killer is more for like a profiling, like on the behavioral side. Serial murder is distinguished from mass murder, in which several victims are murdered at the same time and place. The term serial murder was popularized in the 1970s by Robert Ressler, an investigator with the Behavioral Science Unit of the FBI. Hello, Mindhunter on Netflix.
Oh,
I might
Yeah.
need to do a rewatch because who knows if it's ever coming back.
yeah. It's not.
It's not.
No, that's been canceled for a while.
They
Probably
did 2
because
seasons.
I don't think it was canceled. I
or
think
wasn't renewed.
Yeah, I think the director was like, I'm too cool for this and I'm doing other things now.
I mean,
Well, that's
maybe.
not fair. They hardly even got to the good shit.
I think they just found out that it made me really horny.
Horny. Horny.
It's because the main guy is so cute.
It had become
No, she liked
problem.
Edward Kemper.
Yeah.
Ed Kemper. That's who turned her on.
I have to go.
It's not a good situation for anybody.
Amanda personally wrote to the director and begged him or her to
Please
stop.
Stop. I can't do this anymore.
I'm
My
constantly
partner
aroused.
can't take it.
Ish.
Poor Bill.
So the FBI originally defined serial murder as involving at least 4 events that take place at different locations and are separated by a cooling off period. In most definitions now, however, the number of events has been reduced to 2, and even the FBI lowered the number of events to 3 in the 1990s. So it's kind of it's gone down over time.
2 feels
too small.
too small for me.
It's 2 now.
I know. I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think of cereal, the word cereal is just more than 1. So.
Yeah, but you don't really think of things as like serialized until there's 3. I think. Otherwise, it's just a sequel.
Well, we'll kind of get to more of the what qualifies a serial killer down the road. The FBI's definition has been faulted because it excludes individuals who commit 2 murders and are arrested before they can commit more, and individuals who commit most of their murders in a single location. Such criticisms, like Kenyon's criticisms, have led many scholars worldwide to adopt the definition put forward by the National Institute of Justice, which is an agency of the U.S. Department of Justice, according to which serial murder involves at least 2 different murders that occur, quote, over a period of time ranging from hours to years. So I get your point. Like you commit 2 murders and say they're like 15 years apart. Does that really make you a serial killer?
Yeah.
Technically, yes.
I think there should be a repeat. Like there should be a definition of like a repeat killer. You know, like some people I think are like pretty opportunistic, or like they will concoct reasons in their mind to like kill person A, and then like years later a different scenario that is also like inconvenient to them, and they'll concoct a scenario in their head to like kill person B. But that's a little bit different than like a Ted Bundy who is like kills for some pathological need, cools off, needs to kill again, the crimes escalate. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So there you go. I'm a criminologist now.
Nailed.
There you go. That's a freebie.
You did it.
Repeat
Thank
killer
you.
versus serial killer.
Nailed it.
I appreciate all of the work and studying and dedication that you've put into your craft.
Truly admirable.
Thank you. Yeah. It's just
Thank
it's
you
all
for
the
your-
science.
It's a gift.
Service to the
I don't know.
community.
It's a gift.
And to science. Capital S.
It's a gift.
I don't know. It's a gift.
Criminologists have distinguished between classic serial murder, which usually involves stalking and is often sexually motivated, and spree serial murder, which is usually motivated by thrill seeking. Although some serial murders have been committed for profit, most lack an obvious rational motive, a fact that distinguishes them from political assassinations and terrorism, and from professional murders committed by professional murderers. Serial murderers are assumed to kill for motives such as sexual compulsion or even recreation. In many cases, the killings are thought to give murderers a feeling of power, control, which may or may not be sexual in nature over their victims. I also think that because most murderers in general are male, and a lot of victims of serial killers are female, then that element of control, whether or not it's like personal or like socially sort of enforced,
Whether or not
culturally
it's
enforced.
misogyny.
Yeah, I mean, duh. Like, just duh. Okay. Serial killings account for no more than 1% of all murders committed in the United States. Based on recent FBI crime statistics, there are approximately 15,000 murders annually.
That's
So
a
that
lot.
means it's a lot. So that means that there are no more than 150 victims of serial murder in the U.S. in any given year. Obviously, that's an average from what we know.
Sure.
The FBI estimates that there are between 25 and 50 serial killers operating throughout the U.S. at any given time.
Sir.
Cool.
Your murders.
Sir, yeah. So here are some myths about serial killers from Psychology Today and how to dispel them. So the myth, serial killers are all dysfunctional loners. But the truth is, the majority of serial killers are not reclusive social misfits who live alone. They are not monsters and may not appear strange at all. Many serial killers hide in plain sight within their communities.
Like BTK.
Yeah.
Golden State Killer.
Yeah.
Like
Ted Bundy.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the big ones.
Yeah.
Myth, serial killers are all white males. Contrary to popular belief, serial killers span all racial groups and many are female. So it's not all just white dudes.
Well, not all white dudes, but it does feel like there's a lot.
A lot.
of white-
Disproportionate,
mostly, yeah.
I'm gonna say.
Yes. I would also argue that, like, the way that we learn about them, the things that are kind of propagated by the media are those cases where they're like, your average white guy neighbor, because that's the creepiest part, you know?
Yeah.
So we also have to kind of weigh our perceptions of serial killers in contemporary culture.
Sure.
So, yeah. So another myth, serial killers are only motivated by sex. There are other motivations for serial murders, including anger, thrill, financial gain, and attention seeking, which the financial gain, again, would sort of point away from the having no rational motive.
But then there's like a line, and I mean, who knows exactly where it is, but it's like that woman who would like lure potential husbands and then like knock them off, and like, yeah, she got some insurance money from them and whatever money they brought with them, but she also was getting
Into
a kick
it.
out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, I mean, all
Versus
of those
like a
things
mobster
could be true.
who is like following orders to kill for a boss.
And all of those things can be true in one given murder: anger, thrill, financial gain, and attention seeking. And those are just a few examples. Okay, another myth. All serial murderers travel and operate interstate, when in fact, most serial killers have a very defined geographic area of operation. Another myth. Serial killers can't stop killing. There are some serial killers who stop murdering altogether before being caught. There are also cases of them like killing themselves.
Sure.
What am I trying to say? Not completing. Whatever.
Dying by suicide.
Dying by suicide. Thank you. Another myth. All serial killers are insane or evil geniuses. We know that's not true. As a group, serial killers suffer from a variety of personality disorders, including psychopathy, antisocial personality, and others. Most, however, are not adjudicated as insane under the law. Like other populations, however, serial killers range in intelligence from borderline to above average levels. They're all over the place. Another myth, serial killers want to get caught. As serial killers continue to offend without being captured, they can feel empowered, feeling that they will never be identified. As the series continues, the killer or killers may begin to take shortcuts when committing their crimes. This often causes the killers to take more chances, leading to identification by law enforcement. It's not that the killers want to get caught. It's that they feel that they can't get caught, and that leads to laziness, and that leads to being caught.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just like with anything. Like, you get used to it, so you're going to just kind of tune out while you do it.
Exactly. So here's a little bit of history again from my boyfriend, Britt. One of the earliest documented cases involved Locusta, a Roman woman hired by Agrippina the Younger, who was the mother of Nero, Roman Emperor
Oh,
Nero.
yeah. We talked about that earlier.
A little bit, yeah. So she was hired to poison several members of the imperial family. Locusta was executed in the year 69. Serial murders also were documented in medieval England, Germany, Hungary, and Italy. The French baron Gilles de Rais,
She'll don't say.
who is the likely model of the character Bluebeard, was executed in the 15th century for the murder of more than 100 children, which
Ooh.
sounds a little suspicious to me. Like,
Yeah.
that's probably some rumor, folklore.
Yeah. It's a nice round number. And
right.
also a huge number.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
big.
Yeah. Although it is likely that serial murder in Asia and other parts of the world has a similarly long history, documentary evidence of early examples is scarce and controversial, such as the 100 children. The known incidence of serial murder increased dramatically in the early 19th century, particularly in Europe, though this development has been attributed to advances in law enforcement techniques and increased news coverage rather than to an actual rise in the number of occurrences, which makes sense. Of course, there have been serial killers everywhere
Forever.
throughout history.
Since
Yeah, it was just a
humanity
lot
existed.
easier to get away with it.
Correct.
Yeah.
The good old days.
Right. Serial murderers of the early 19th century included a German woman who poisoned more than a dozen people, the Irish-born William Burke and William Hare, who killed at least 15 people in Scotland in the 1920s, and an Austrian woman who reportedly fed children to her family.
Okay, well, I love her.
Duh. The most famous case of serial murder in the 19th century was that of Jack the Ripper, who killed at least 5 women in London in 1888. Shortly afterward, the United States recorded the comparably dramatic case of Herman Webster Mudgett, a.k.a. H.H. Holmes,
Yes.
who
We've
confessed to
covered him.
27 murders and was executed in Philadelphia in 1896. Amanda, did you do him as a drunk dive?
No, I covered him in the same one where Kenyon did Robert Durst, where they just get away with it for way too long.
Oh, lucky bastards.
Yes, that's the harsh she blows.
In the 20th century, cases of serial murder received widespread coverage in the news media. Some murderers became known by lurid nicknames such as the Boston Strangler.
Listen to that podcast, Stranglers.
It's really good.
It's so good.
The Dusseldorf Vampire, the Monster of Florence, and the Killer Clown, John Wayne Gacy. Their crimes, which both horrified and fascinated the public, raised numerous social and legal issues, such as the tendency of police to be less thorough in murder investigations when the victims were poor or of low social status. So we kind of covered we covered the nicknames. Did we have killer nicknames? Wasn't that an
I
episode?
think we've covered a lot
yeah.
of the ones that you just listed. I think we've done
Yeah.
the Dusseldorf guy. We've definitely talked about John Wayne Gacy if we haven't fully covered him. Did
We
you tell
have
them
not
about
covered
your cookie
him,
jar?
but we have mentioned him.
It's in the other room, but I snagged a fat clown cookie jar. My mom was cleaning out her cabinets, and we used it for cookies in my kitchen when I was young.
Oh,
so I was like,
fat
I want the
clown.
clown cookie jar. And then my
No.
sister was like, wow, that is a John Wayne Gacy cookie jar. And I was
It's
like,
really
wow, this is
creepy.
even more appealing to me now.
Now I'm
Very
horny.
Very.
Whoa.
Kidding.
Kick.
Ew.
Kenyon's
Okay.
horny for clowns. Spread that rumor.
I heard it too. It must be true.
Spread it.
So the last thing I want to talk about is what's called the McDonald triad, which is not
I want
a
McDonald's.
cheeseburger, French fries, and a Coke. That's my McDonald's triad. AKA the triad of sociopathy or homicidal triad. So it's a set of 3 factors, the presence of any 2 of which are considered to be predictive of or associated with violent tendencies, particularly with relation to serial offenses.
I have never heard of this.
The triad.
Are you being sarcastic?
No.
Oh, good.
I also have
Okay.
never
I was
heard of
being
this.
excited.
Okay, I know well, whatever. I'll just finish telling you. I wasn't sure if we've talked about this before. I think just because they talk about it on the Mindhunter show, because this theory was first applied by the real life Mindhunter team. So
okay.
the triad links cruelty to animals, obsession with fire setting, and persistent bedwetting past a certain age, which is called enuresis. So it's linking those to violent behaviors, particularly homicidal behavior and sexually predatory behaviors. However, other studies claim to have not found statistically significant links between the triad and violent offenders. So this was really just a theory, and also kind of a problematic one because the bedwetting thing could have multiple causes, and
It could be
Depending
caused
on-
by trauma that is actually the real cause.
exactly. It could also be correlated with like your parents or whoever like humiliating you because of it. And so that could actually be the cause of your trauma or your, something linked to sexual predatory behaviors. Further studies have suggested that these behaviors, like Kenyon said, are actually more linked to childhood experience of parental neglect, brutality, or abuse. Some argue this in turn results in homicidal proneness. So the triad concept as a particular combination of behaviors linked to violence may not have any particular validity. It has been called an urban legend, like I said, a semi-problematic one. You can't just say, my kid wets his bed and he likes to start fires. He is definitely going to be a serial killer.
Yeah.
Well,
no.
yeah, it's not Minority Report, but it's an interesting theory
Yeah.
that deserves actual study.
And a lot of serial killers, in retrospect, that's the whole deal with this. They interviewed serial killers and they identified 3 things that seemed to link them. But we don't know if those behaviors in themselves actually made them more prone to violent behaviors, or if it was like maybe an effect of those behaviors, or those behaviors were a side effect of the actual trauma that contributed to these behaviors,
Right.
Sure.
And you also
Anyway.
can't design a study where you follow people that as children display these behaviors and then see if they go on to be serial killers. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like that study, that it can't exist. So,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's
That would be a
interesting to
really
kind of-
intense longitudinal study.
Yeah. Really intense.
And also these people are fully
Don't
aware.
interfere. We know that they've committed
We're
one
just
murder.
observing for science.
Yeah, these people know that they're being studied like every year or
Right.
whatever.
How many murders did you commit in the last 12 months?
The survey each year would be
And were
a
those
lot.
murders sexually motivated?
Yes.
Or not?
And was there
Yeah.
more than one committed in 2 different places over a period of time?
And how would you describe your feelings during the cooling off period?
Oh dear.
How dilated were your pupils?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe we should design this study.
I think we just did.
We're off to a great start.
They need us.
Anyway, so that's just a little bit of background, albeit of serial killers, which isn't what we're talking about
Right.
today. But
hey, it's a
I
gal's
had to
pick.
fill my time with something. So
I like
there you
it.
go. Thanks.
Nicely done.
Now I want McDonald's.
Are we ready for my case?
Never and
Not
yes.
usually. No.
Prepare to be enraged.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
But
already
also, nobody dies.
Oh.
Way to bury the lead.
Way to soften the blow.
So, Stacy Jones met Fred Austin Wartman III
Hate that.
at
The third.
Can you imagine
At
there
the
being
University
two
of Tennessee.
Wartmans before you? God.
Fred
Ew.
Wartman.
Bull.
At the University of Tennessee. And what do we know about the University of Tennessee?
Roll
That's
Tide.
where Michael went.
No, it's not where he went. I will not wear that god-awful orange. It is not my color.
Ole Miss.
Oh, right. That's why he didn't go to Tennessee.
Because his family goes to Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. So, Fred...
Kenyon and I watched that. We ate some edibles and watched Blindside. And
We
it
ate
was
some edibles and
amazing.
had
When?
The Blind Side playing on her laptop, sitting in her sister's room while we just sat there and
had a
cackled,
side
laughed over
conversation.
That sounds right.
It was the night you refused to sleep over.
Well, yeah, because I have a bed and a home.
it. Show off.
I know, right?
Oh,
How dare I?
braggart.
So anyway, they met at University of Tennessee. Go Orange. Fred was a handsome, charming football player on a team that would go on to win the 1998 NCAA championship, even
Wow.
without Michael.
I think that's basketball.
Oh,
NCAA.
That's
but he
okay.
played.
There's no B in there though, so I don't know.
He was a football player. There's
Yeah.
no way to know.
There's no way to know.
So the two dated through college and got married in 2001, right before Fred began attending law school at the University of Memphis. Fred eventually became a prominent lawyer in their Tennessee town of Collierville. His law firm, Cox and Wartman,
Oh my
can't make
Lord.
it up.
Why would you choose to make that name even worse?
That's a good question.
Cox
And Wartman.
Specialized in cases dealing with elderly and disabled people. He was also very involved in civic affairs in town, serving in appointed positions on multiple boards. Stacy taught preschool for the first several years of their marriage, but quit to become a stay-at-home mom when
Oh,
they
such a
began
mom.
having children. So on paper, everything is very idyllic. They had 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. And for almost 14 years, Stacy believed that all was well in their marriage. I'm basically just picturing that Mary Chapin Carpenter song, He Thinks He'll Keep Her.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a great tune.
Fucking banger. So, but then in April of 2014, Stacy discovered that Fred had been having multiple affairs.
Ooh, not good.
So she filed for divorce and Fred moved out of the house, but he continued to still see the children regularly. So she didn't try
Cut them off completely.
No,
or-
she
yeah.
wasn't trying for like full custody or anything. It was just like, you're cheating on me. We're getting divorced. But like, you can see the kids, every other weekend or whatever. Stacy went back to work teaching part-time. And for the most part, the split with Fred felt amicable. It's like your standard divorce.
It can
Sounds
be
like it.
done.
Yeah.
Well,
Anecdotally.
Amanda, it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
Not in this case.
Oh.
So until one day in February of 2015, when Stacy was at home cleaning up after the beach-themed 6th birthday party for their youngest.
Okay, well, I love that.
So cute, right?
That's adorbs.
Fred had not attended the party, but had FaceTimed with the kids throughout the day. All of the guests had left, and Stacy was once again home alone with the kids when somebody knocked on their front door.
Uh-oh.
She
I
opened it.
hate when people knock. I just hate it.
She screamed and said, "I didn't order anything."
Yeah.
If somebody knocks, I wait a couple seconds to just hear if I hear
Misheard.
like a thud of like a delivery bag being dropped.
Mm-hmm.
But like, Sometimes delivery people, they'll knock and then they'll like wait for you to answer. I'm like, it's 2021. That is
Hate
not
that.
a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Just drop
bye-bye.
it and go.
The only person I'll accept that from is the cute Jimmy John's guy.
She looks around
She
for
looks
her
for
husband.
her husband and says it quietly.
Well, because we
cute?
also had our gutters replaced a couple of days ago, and it was just a crew of smoking hot dudes putting out my gutters. And I made the mistake of telling Corey that. And he was like, you don't need to tell me that there's a bunch of hot guys climbing on our roof while I'm not home.
I think I do need
Just
to
bring them lemonade and a push-up bra.
Wouldn't it be worse if I didn't disclose my feelings for these strangers? Wouldn't it be worse?
It was their team was a recommendation from a friend of mine, and I texted him later and I was like, he should just rename his company like Hunks Gutters.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
God.
My mind was deep in the gutter. Really cute. And they
Get
did
your
a
mind out of the
phenomenal
gutter with
job.
Hunks.
She keeps looking for,
She really
Because
like.
it was kind of
and they did a phenomenal job.
I 10 out of
No
10
leaks
would
here.
recommend.
tip.
There is a leak here.
There's a leak. There's one leak. It has nothing to do with the gutters.
So anyway, somebody knocked on their door. It was not a team of hot gutter repair men.
Of
She
pornographic
wishes.
gutters.
She opened it to find a pair of police officers who informed her that they had come to notify her that they believed her life to be in danger.
Okay.
A colleague at Cox and Wartman's law firm
Well, I hate that.
had used Fred's computer and noticed that the search history on it included inquiries about the effects of various poisons, both plant-based and frog-based.
Okay.
Like a poison dart frog?
Yes.
Nothing like a frog-based poison
That's not where my mind goes
at all.
when I think of poisons to Google, which I've done relatively recently.
We have a reason to Google these things.
Right. It's for work.
But
down.
frogs weren't where my mind went.
Well, maybe he was just working on frogbogs.com.
This is it.
As well as a search for, quote, how to hire a hitman using Bitcoin.
Come on,
Why would
people.
you fucking Google that? No.
Step
You
one,
find-
don't Google it.
Right.
You find your friend who secretly sells the most hardcore drugs and you ask him, because let's be honest. Yes, that's what you do.
So the colleague had immediately called the police to report what they had found. So I feel like that's good. They saw this search history and they're like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
I would have been like, this is so funny. What case are you working on, man?
LOL.
You know?
And like, don't look at my computer or cell phone or desktop.
So at first, what the officers were telling Stacy sounded ludicrous to her. But then something clicked in her head. A couple weeks earlier, a tube of toothpaste had made her ill.
Oh, don't like
there were
that.
frogs in it.
Frog bugs.
Upon using the toothpaste, she had felt a burning sensation and spit it out. But she soon developed nausea and a splitting headache.
Oh, that's not good.
One of her children had also used the toothpaste and become sick with the same symptoms. Stacy had even told her parents about the toothpaste when they had come to visit soon after the incident, and she asked them to put a small amount on their tongues to see if they felt the same burning sensation, and they had. So,
She
like,
was soup
So it's
suspish.
legit. Yeah.
oh yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Some instinct had told her to hang on to the toothpaste, even though she was not sure exactly what she planned to do with it. Maybe she
Smart.
thought she would, like, report it to the toothpaste company or, like, you know, something was clearly fucking wrong with it.
Yeah.
She now turned it over to the police for testing, and it came back positive for a plant-based poison called anconitum, also known as monk's hood or wolf's bane.
Okay.
Wolf's bane. Poison.
Yeah.
Poison. We've heard of those poisons.
What did she give? Oh, belladonna. in
The belladonna's in my bag.
I got hot sauce in my bag.
Okay, bye.
I got belladonna in my bag, swag.
Okay, bye. Okay, I actually want a tote bag that says I got belladonna in my bag swag.
You could order it from Zazzle.
Yeah. Etsy, here I come.
Also, can either of you see pepperoni on the? Oh no, I have my background up.
Yeah, you
well,
have your
viewers
weird
at
background.
home can see pepperoni in the chair behind me, and she's snoozing.
Aww.
She's so cute and she loves me.
She does. Shut up. She does love her auntie.
I'm
Ken.
sorry that just came out, but honestly.
You shut your whore mouth.
But seriously, shut your whore mouth.
Shut your whore mouth.
Lucy's very jealous of my relationship with Pep.
Okay,
The
well, I
accuracy.
haven't slept over at Amanda's house yet.
Well, technically, Kenyon hadn't slept over yet either.
You know what? I don't want to talk about this right now because I'm going to get inflamed.
Okay, so the toothpaste, the anconitum. So a dose as small as 20 milliliters of anconitum has the ability to cause death within 2 to 6 hours.
Ooh, that is potent.
And a larger dose can cause death almost instantaneously.
Don't like that.
Wow. Toothpaste, though, that's kind of smart.
Right?
Smart.
Horrified, Stacy realized that at some point in the weeks leading up to the birthday party, while Fred was acting as if his priority was keeping things amicable for the sake of the kids in their divorce, he had snuck into her home and poisoned her toothpaste. So he probably was like picking up or dropping off the kids. Maybe he went to use the bathroom, did it. And then that's why he didn't go back to the birthday party.
Right, because he
he-
just poisoned his wife.
Yeah.
Because she could have died at any moment.
Yeah, he didn't want to be like implicated in it.
Wow.
And the toothpaste, there was a strong chance that the children might use it as well.
Yeah.
And they fucking did.
That's really bad. That's
Like-
really, really bad.
Also, just considering the toothpaste choice, depending on how he did it, then like the strong mint smell and flavor would kind of cover up any.
And
Totally.
some toothpaste are already tingly.
Yep.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's real.
It's not like a cup that you would wash or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't get that toothpaste back
Back
in the tube.
So, Stacy filed a restraining order against Fred, but police still needed more evidence to arrest him for attempted murder. Investigators began tracking Wartman's activities and set up a sting operation that led to him meeting with what he believed to be a hitman at a local gas station to arrange
But it
his
was a cop, wasn't it?
ex-wife's murder.
It's always a fucking
Yeah,
cop.
I don't think that real hitmen exist.
They definitely don't.
It's just all cops.
Yep.
So when he met with
They exist.
the hitman, who was actually an undercover cop wearing a wire, he told him that he had hid the supplies for killing Stacy in a ditch behind her house. So he had it like all prepped.
Yep. Okay.
He also told the undercover agent that it, quote, didn't matter if the children were home to witness their mother's murder.
Good Lord. And the guy was just like, okay.
Yeah. Well, the cop is like, great. You're just incriminating yourself more,
Wow,
dude. Like, this
that's-
I cannot wait to say this at trial.
That's so gross. I hate that.
And the youngest one is 6. So it's not
Yeah.
like they're like infants who aren't going to know what's going on.
Right.
Ugh.
Fred Wartman III was arrested for attempted murder for the toothpaste poisoning, as well as for attempting to hire the hitman, and held on $15 million bond. But then, while in jail awaiting trial, he attempted for a third time to arrange for Stacy's murder.
Dude.
Up, dude.
Well, if at first you don't succeed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wonder why I chose this case.
Mm-hmm.
This time, he propositioned another inmate, telling him that if he could have Stacy killed, he would pay him by telling him how to break into his parents' house which contained sports memorabilia and other valuables.
I'll make it worth your while.
Isn't he just the worst?
He sounds awful.
Yeah,
Truly
and not even
awful.
giving up his own property, but break into my parents'
I'll let you
house.
steal my parents' collection of shit that nobody wants.
So that's some sociopathy. Like you just have no regard for your children's
your
mental
parents.
health, the life of your former wife, or your parents' security, anything like that. Ugh.
And you're the one that cheated.
Yeah.
You're
this
the
is
one
like
that caused the divorce.
Just move
some
on.
serious
Why does
like
he want her
narcissistic personality disorder
once
for
her
sure.
dead? Yeah. Ugh.
Definitely narcissistic personality.
Yeah.
This third attempt on Stacy's life was added to Wartman's charges. So, like, either they caught and overheard him saying this to the inmate, or the inmate snitched and was like, this guy just tried to hire me to kill his wife. Can I get, like, bacon in my breakfast?
Oh, God.
I feel like prison is the worst place to try to solicit this kind of thing, because everybody is looking for a deal with their own prosecutors to get out early.
For sure. They're gonna squeal.
They're gonna squeal.
And that deal is not sweet enough. A bunch of sports memorabilia that they also have to steal.
Right.
Yeah.
They still have to break into the family home to get it.
Nice try.
Cute.
And murder a woman in front of her kids.
Yeah. It's not great.
That would cost at least $2 million for me personally.
At least 2 posters of Michael Jordan.
Signed.
Not signed.
I guess the podcast is over. We can't talk. So he eventually accepted a plea deal that would sentence him to 30 years, but only require him to serve 30% of this time. So he only had to serve 10 years or less than 10.
Sure.
Meaning
That's
that
sad.
he would be eligible for release as early as 2024.
Well, that's too soon.
To try and have her murdered again.
Yeah.
3 times. At his sentencing, and endangering his children with the toothpaste thing.
Yeah. I always forget about the two.
And his parents.
Yeah.
Wow.
At his sentencing, he gave a statement which read in part, quote, "No apology which I will offer will be sufficient to all who I have disappointed, let down, and hurt.
I mean, that's true.
So why even bother?
Yeah, exactly. I do apologize to Stacy, the Joneses, my parents, my family. Most of all, I apologize to my 3 precious children, who might have been collateral damage, or at the very least, irrevocably fucking traumatized by being made to watch their mother's murder.
Yup.
But sure. But even with Fred in prison and their divorce now finalized, Stacy soon realized that her horrific ordeal was far from over.
Oh, no.
Because again, if at first you don't succeed.
Try again.
When he was 3 years into his 30-year sentence, Wartman, representing himself,
Why do they always do this? I have one of those in my case, too.
again, narcissistic, began initiating a series of lawsuits against Stacy.
You gotta be kidding me.
Nope. On one such occasion, he tried to get a judge to require that she bring his children to visit him in prison for a Father's Day event.
Oh,
No.
Hey.
Ew.
Stacy eventually succeeded in having his parental custody rights severed, but that did not put an end to the lawsuits. Also, I feel like if you're imprisoned for attempted murder of your
children's mother.
yeah, then your parental custody rights should be automatically severed.
right?
Yeah, no.
Or at least,
Fast-tracked.
delayed. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So he soon filed a motion to require that he still be allowed access to information about his children, such as report cards and medical records.
Good God.
And also, if somebody fucked up,
Mm-hmm.
potentially address.
Yep.
Because,
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all in there.
Oh, yeah.
And, ways to contact them.
Yep.
He very
How secure could your report card really be?
Well,
medical records are one thing, but if the school is just forwarding, their shit.
Well, he very easily could call and have enough information there and be like, hey, I'm the father. Could you just, I want to make sure you have our updated address. Can you tell me what you have on file?
Yeah. Yep.
As a result of these lawsuits, Stacy has been forced to appear in court on 5 separate occasions, interrupting her life.
Yep.
To hear Fred's voice over the courtroom speakerphone.
The man who tried to murder her.
Mm-hmm.
Murder, David.
Murder, David.
Her parents and lawyers have also attended additional hearings on her behalf, so she has to pay for lawyers for these frivolous fucking lawsuits, waste her goddamn time, be re-traumatized. Fred's harassment of Stacy via lawsuits filed from prison became so bad that it led to the creation of a new state law in 2018 that was aimed at preventing, quote, abusive civil action lawsuits being filed against victims of domestic abuse, because this is a form of domestic abuse where they like keep trying to just annoy and interrupt and control your life.
Can we apply this to Donald Trump?
Seriously.
Right?
We are all in a domestic abuse situation from Donald Trump. Still.
Yeah, because, again, narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Fred was doing everything he could in prison to get his sentence shortened, and it worked. Because of good behavior and work credits, he was granted a parole hearing in 2019, only 4 years into his supposed 30-year sentence.
Hate that.
What?
Yeah.
Hate that.
Ugh.
Stacy, who had moved out of the house and that they had shared together and had changed her last name and her children's last name back to her maiden name, began fighting to keep Fred in jail. She created a change.org petition urging the Tennessee Parole Board to deny Wartman's parole. It received more than 37,000 signatures.
Wow.
At Wartman's parole hearing, a prison chaplain, his attorney, and his family all spoke in support of his release.
Of course.
A chaplain?
Yeah, of course, because he's an upper middle class white guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
he can behave
forgives.
well in prison, and he has the resources to like do all this shit.
Well, that's the thing. Like, the prison chaplain only knows how he's behaving in prison, and he's behaving in prison in a manipulative way in order to get out early.
Yeah, and
So,
his
yeah.
chaplain is a Christian, so he believes in
Forgiveness.
redemption and forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh,
It
they
just-
shouldn't be allowed to testify. That's insane.
I just don't understand when people's victims are so specific,
Mm-hmm.
like especially in cases of domestic abuse or intimate partner violence or whatever. I don't understand why prison behavior is
Matters.
a factor at all.
Because, this is how they're behaving behind
I
bars
agree.
away from their victim that they are explicitly targeting.
yeah, of course
Like-
they're going to be on good behavior.
Yeah, I'm sure he was on good behavior when he was working at his law firm and when he was sitting on the board of whatever or like teaching Little League. Like, that's not the question.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, did he try to kill his fucking wife?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Spoiler answer is yes, he did.
So all these people, the chaplain, his family, blah, 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 described him as a changed man who had taken responsibility for his actions and reformed himself in prison. It's been 4 years. During which he's been harassing his victim repeatedly
The whole
entire
time,
time. His mother said at the hearing that, quote, his actions and his situation do not reflect the true person that he is. His father and I humbly plead to give him mercy and allow him to be the person he truly is.
Okay.
Sure you do.
Wartman
And that's really hard for you. And
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that that's happening.
I'm so sorry your son has put you through this.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
between you, your son, and your God now.
Mm-hmm. Wartman himself.
Your adult son.
Oh. It's between you, your adult son, and your adult God. And your baby infant Jesus God.
Mm-hmm.
Wartman himself also claimed that he had spent 4 years reflecting on his actions and that he was a changed man, stating, quote, My weaknesses back then have and continue to chill me to my core. No doubt I was selfish and self-serving in all of my negative choices. Stacy was also present at the hearing, coming face to face with her ex-husband and attempted murderer for the first time in 4 years, because during all the other trials, she was able to...
be on a phone or he's out of the room. Yeah.
She tearfully pleaded with the parole board to keep Wartman in prison, stating, quote, "I ask you, please do not grant Fred Wartman parole. I believe I am still the aim and that Fred Wartman wants to eliminate me."
Ugh.
Thankfully, the board was convinced. It voted to keep Wartman in prison for another 7 years before he becomes eligible for another hearing. One of the board members, in an explanation of the decision, stated that Fred Wartman is still a very clear threat not only to his ex-wife, but also to his children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If not physically or like mortally.
At least psychologically.
Yes.
Psychologically,
what
and
he's
he
put them
didn't
through.
care about,
Yeah.
I mean, the toothpaste, like, he didn't care. Also, having a hitman enter your home, it wasn't just them being witnesses. There's a very real potential for them to be caught in the crossfire.
Right.
Yeah,
and he was
and-
pretty clear that he didn't give a shit if they were home or not. He wasn't
And what if,
trying to
like-
make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what if like your, 14-year-old son or whatever decides to like try
Be a
to
hero.
protect the
Exactly.
family?
Wartman's next chance at parole will come in September of 2026. Stacey Jones has stated in interviews that although she still fears for her life if Wartman is released, her main desire is that he stay in prison until all of their children are over 18, so that they will not be forced into a relationship with him against their will.
Because of the custody.
Because he would absolutely, if he got out, he would absolutely fight for custody of those kids if they were still minors.
I didn't even think about that.
Yep.
Oh, that'd be so awful.
How fucked up is this case?
So he's still in prison.
He's in prison, but everything just relies on that parole board.
For another 5 years. Ugh. God.
And the youngest child was 6 when he went into prison?
6
said?
when the crime occurred, so I don't
Yeah.
know when he went into prison, but
So 6 years old when the crime occurred, which was what year?
2014, 2015?
Oh, so it's going to be a minute before that kid's 18.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
And
I'm not
he will
confident.
absolutely be, I mean, he's not going to serve a full 30-year sentence.
No.
There's no way. And so she already knows, and those kids already know that, like, they will be dealing with this man out of prison.
Oh, God. Mm-mm.
Oh,
Don't
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
like that.
Great.
So that is my case. And if you ever
Cool.
see another petition about this man to keep him in prison, please sign it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. I
Ew.
don't like that. I didn't like that. Thank you. And I don't like it. I don't like it.
You're very welcome. And I
Great.
also
That's
don't
awful.
like it.
Are you ready for my case?
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm kind of scarred.
Well, this won't make it any better.
Great.
Okay.
Let the
You just
sadness
refill my delicious wine.
let the sadness consume you. Here we go. So, like I said, I took a
On my
slightly
epitaph.
yeah. Sometimes death is a mercy. I took a little bit of a different approach to this
Okay.
topic. So, wrongful convictions are a serious problem in our criminal justice system, especially, as we know, for Black and brown individuals. So I wanted to highlight a wrongful conviction that fits the topic this week because the man in this case certainly did not succeed in proving his innocence, but did try and try again until the truth won out.
Oh, I like that interpretation.
This part's really dark. To go over the crime that this individual was accused of.
Okay.
And so I don't usually give any kind of warning, but this also includes rape of both an adult woman and a minor female child. So I'm just gonna try to go through it as quickly as possible so we don't have to linger on this horrible part too long.
Please do.
So on July 8th, 1981, 3 men broke into a home in Tampa, Florida, one of whom was armed with a shotgun. There was a family of 5 living in the house, and they were threatened with the shotgun. They were robbed, and the nightmare did not stop there. The males in the home, or the father and two sons, were tied up while the two females, so the 38-year-old mother of the house and her 12-year-old daughter, were kidnapped, forced into the trunk of a car, and driven to a dark wooded area. The mother was then removed from the trunk and raped by one suspect, while another suspect raped the daughter before then raping the mother. So the mother was raped twice, the daughter was raped once. The mother testified in court that the first suspect did not ejaculate, but the second suspect did. So the second suspect, who had allegedly raped both victims, did ejaculate, while the first did not. That only matters because of DNA evidence.
Right.
The third suspect in this home invasion and kidnapping stayed in the car. He was the driver, and he stayed there likely as a lookout, and did not assault either victim sexually. Once the suspects were
81. Okay.
Yeah. Once the suspects were finished, they tied the mother and daughter to a tree and drove away. The mother and daughter were able to free themselves and walk to a house nearby to contact the police.
Can you even imagine anything more horrific?
Not
I
really.
honestly can't.
I can't. I don't think I can either.
I don't even want to consider it.
And so, I mean, this is like every nightmare. It's like home invasion, at gunpoint, kidnapping
with
sexual
children.
assault. Yep. Of both, of minors and adults. It's just like.
And then being tied up in the woods.
And just left. There. It's so scary.
I mean,
Thank God they weren't shot and killed.
Not that like silver linings are a thing
There's
here
only
necessarily,
one.
but
They survived.
they could have just as easily been killed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a miracle that they weren't.
It really is actually a miracle. But, it's like that. I know we joke that sometimes death is a mercy and I would never wish death, but they survived, yes, but to face a lifetime of recovering from this trauma. So, I mean, that silver lining, it's so tough to be like, well, look on the bright side, you lived. It's like, yeah, I lived, but now I have to fucking live with this for the rest of my fucking life.
I'm also like coloring through my anxiety about this
Talkspace
case.
is coloring for
just
everyone.
so you know,
I got you.
I'm not being just insensitive
No, I
or
know.
disrespectful. This is how I'm calming down.
It's hard to hear
That's how
it.
you're coping. It is hard to hear it. It's just so horrific. I just don't understand how people can fucking do this.
I don't either.
Like, I just picture like, that mom who just is like experiencing this horrific trauma, and I'm sure all she
Alongside
cares
her child.
about,
and watching her child. Ugh.
yeah, and just trying to figure out how to protect her kid. Oh God,
It's so sick. So the mother and daughter were, like I said, able to free themselves and walk to a house in the area to contact the police. They were picked up and taken to the hospital to be treated for their injuries, as well as have evidence collected from both of them. So a rape kit was performed on both of these victims. Back at their house, the three male victims were able to get free of their ties as well. Fortunately, two of these victims got sight of the plate number of the vehicle as the car drove away with their family members inside. And they even hopped into their own car and tried to follow after them. Like, they got out of their ties pretty quickly.
Wow.
But they were like far enough behind that they did, like, the perps lost them in this car chase.
wow, that's also, I mean, the bravery that
Heroic.
would take.
Yeah.
So after having lost sight of the car, they went to the police to report the robbery and kidnapping, and they, gave them the license plate number. So with the license plate in hand, police had a very good start to this investigation. The police returned information for a resident of St. Petersburg, Florida. When the mother and her daughter were shown a photo of the owner of the car, though, they were not able to confirm confidently his identity, or in that like same photo lineup. They didn't take them anywhere to make them look at these individuals, which I think is a mercy. But they kept showing them pictures, and they weren't able to confirm any of the photos that they were shown that first day. So more photos were presented to them the next day, but this time without the photos of the vehicle's owner, because investigators had concluded that the owner of the car was incarcerated at the time of the crime, and therefore the car must have been borrowed.
Okay.
So two of the suspect photos presented to the victims the second day were of men named Douglas James and Alan Kreutzer. The mother identified both men as the suspects in question, with one of the other victims corroborating the identification of Douglas James. The third suspect was identified as Douglas's brother, Corlenzo James. So the three men that have been identified now are Alan, Douglas, and Corlenzo, and Douglas and Corlenzo are brothers. Alan was implicated as the suspect who raped both female victims, Corlenzo as the suspect who raped the mother, and Douglas as the driver who had borrowed the car.
So to hammer this home, but Alan was the one who left his DNA in the victims.
Correct.
Okay.
And now that I'm reading this, I may have gotten it mixed up, may have gotten Corlenzo and Douglas mixed up, the brothers. It might have been
Douglas
Corlenzo who was driving and Douglas who was the other rapist. It's not, the case is about Alan, so it's not, obviously it's relevant to the case, but not for like the purposes of my description of it. And I apologize if I did get that mixed up. It's possible that I did. And I think I'm going to discover where I fucked up in like 2 more paragraphs. So we'll get to it.
Okay.
So DNA evaluation of the rape kits indicated that semen collected from the victims matched Alan Kreutzer. But this was actually a very misleading bit of testimony in court. So in court, they're saying like, we've got the DNA indicates that it's him.
Okay.
I'm going to quote the Innocence Project here because I'm not going to be able to explain this properly, and they always nail it. So I'm just going to let them explain this. Quote, a lab analyst testified at trial that the blood group markers of semen from the crime scene matched the markers of both Alan Kreutzer and the victim. When the evidence being tested is a mixed stain of semen from the perpetrator and vaginal secretions from the victim, and testing does not detect blood group, substance, or enzymes foreign to the victim, no potential semen donor can be excluded because the victim's blood group markers could be masking the perpetrators. Under such circumstances, the failure to inform the jury that 100% of the male population could be included and that no one can be excluded is highly misleading.
Oh.
So
saying it's a match is useless.
it's a match, but also every man with semen could be a potential match in this case.
So, but they're saying it's not even a matter of it being a match. It's just that everyone else has been excluded.
Correct. Well, no, they're saying
it could be anyone.
They're saying it could be anyone's semen. That it's so unknown, and there are the.
But I mean, in theory, when it comes to DNA, it's not a match. It's just that everyone else has been excluded.
Correct.
Right?
But
correct.
Normal, but yes, if this were properly. When using DNA evidence, that is what you want to show, is that it excludes other possibilities, but this didn't do that. This was a combination of DNA from both.
And it's also early days, so it's just blood group matching.
Correct.
Yes.
So it's a combination of DNA from both the assailant and the victim, and they are not able to conclusively match it, quote unquote, to Alan because there are markers that could match it to any man on the planet. It's basically what this is saying.
I get that.
So this misleading DNA evidence coupled with hairs that were collected that, quote, could have come from Alan Kreutzer and Corlenzo James. So it was Douglas who was the driver.
But they're just hairs.
Yep, made a huge impact on the jury, regardless of how loose the science actually was. And one more time, I'm going to quote the Innocence Project. And I know that we've actually talked about this before in previous episodes that focus on DNA, how it is not a smoking gun unless it is a smoking gun. And it's actually super rare that it is 100% a smoking gun.
And this far back in time.
Exactly. And we'll get to it. So regarding the hair, the Innocence Project states, quote, because there is not adequate empirical data on the frequency of various class characteristics in human hair, an analyst's assertion that hairs are consistent or similar is inherently prejudicial and lacks probative value, end quote. So I would venture a guess that this was hair analysis without the root, which, as we know, is where the DNA is located. So they couldn't even confirm the DNA in these hairs.
At that time,
It would be like the hair is from a brown-haired individual.
Exactly. They analyzed side-by-side samples taken from Alan and Corlenzo, and we're like, yep, it could be theirs.
A white person or a black person.
Correct.
It's not even like,
It's
I
not
guess it might be like
specific.
male or female, but it's not like that is Corlenzo's hair.
Right.
I don't even think they can do male or female without
I don't
the
think
root.
they could either. So this evidence, coupled with positive IDs by the victims, was plenty to convict. And also, these are individuals of color, so there's that added layer. So Corlenzo had pled guilty to the robbery and burglary charges, while Alan maintained his innocence. Okay, so yes, I did get Corlenzo and Douglas mixed up. Corlenzo was just the driver, and that's why they were testing his hair to like place him in the car.
Okay.
Douglas is
Was
the
a
individual who raped the mother in this case. So Douglas represented himself and built a case that the older victim who he had raped had actually consented to the act. He was trying to build a consent case.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I know. Obviously, it didn't work.
Representing yourself.
Right? Y'all, just, I can't.
The audacity of this Douglas.
Yeah. Harry Potter and.
God damn it.
While Alan continued to testify that he was not even there on the night in question and had no knowledge of these crimes until he had been arrested. He also provided an alibi that had like 4 corroborating individuals because he was with his girlfriend that night. And the 2 of them spent time together with members of her family.
Okay.
But I mean, I could see how in court there could be
They'd
holes
be like, well,
poked in
his
that.
girlfriend's lying.
Yep, they're protecting him.
Right.
There's no like CCTV that can put him at a gas station or whatever.
Right.
It's just that's not
But at least
ironclad.
her family, there would be less
Right.
likely that they would lie to protect him. But-
I agree. So that spotty DNA evidence was still very compelling. So all 3 suspects were found guilty of all charges, and Alan was sentenced to 130 years in prison for sexual battery, kidnapping, aggravated assault, burglary, robbery, and attempted robbery. Which, like,
Is that all?
Which, like, if you did it, good. That's what you.
It was a horrific crime.
Correct.
For
The
whoever
charges,
did it.
the charges are the right charges.
But he didn't?
They didn't have the right guy. So in April of 1982, Alan began his sentence and his long road to exoneration. Alan and his legal team knew that the key to his release would be in the DNA. They fought for 24 years to even just get access to the DNA evidence in order to have it retested by multiple outside labs.
How is that possible? Like, shouldn't that be a part of a person's legal defense that they have access to all the evidence?
Yep, it's supposed to be.
Should be.
But the DNA had originally been tested only by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Forensic Lab, found to be a quote-unquote match, and then locked away. So after years of motions filed and the evolution of DNA testing technology, even the prosecution agreed that the DNA should be retested because of the leaps and bounds that had been made.
Yeah, that like late 90s, early mid 2000s. Yeah.
Big time for DNA technology. So finally, it was retested, and the DNA was sent to 3 separate labs that were agreed upon by both parties, and lo and behold, the new testing supported what Alan had been saying since the very beginning. Quote, the spermatozoa found on a slide recovered from the rape kit of the adult female rape victim came from an unknown male. It could not have come from Alan Kreutzer, either of the James brothers or the victim's husband. So
they got all 3 of them wrong.
So they weren't involved at all?
This is where I'm a little confused. This is only on the female victim, and
the other one, they didn't have DNA to test.
And because only one rapist ejaculated.
Oh.
So they only could have used the sperm evidence to implicate one of these individuals, and they tried to lay it all on Alan, who had the finger pointed at him as the one who raped both the mother and the daughter. The other individual, Douglas, who did commit rape, he didn't ejaculate, so there was no sperm to collect.
But how do we know that the James brothers were involved?
Well, they did confess.
Okay.
Like
Well,
they did end
as-
up pleading guilty, and we'll kind of get to that too.
Okay.
So the sperm that they were trying to say the only one who who ejaculated was Alan. That's the only sperm they had, and then that sperm actually doesn't match anybody that was at the scene. So this is from convictingtheinnocent.com. Quote, victim and Kreutzer were both O secretors and were PGM1. Swabs also exhibited blood group substances consistent with type O and PGM1. So those could have come from either of them because both of him and the victim had those identifiers.
Secretor. This being a secretor, though, automatically narrows down that. Right?
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Don't ask me to know.
No, we
what any of this
we
means.
talked about being a secretor, which means that like
But if the
Your-
victim is also a secretor and the
That's the
sample
problem.
is mixed between ejaculate and
Correct.
vaginal fluid,
I think being a secretor means that your DNA is not only in the classic DNA like places like the root of the hair and like actual blood, but your DNA profile actually shows up in like semen, blood, like pee, like all that stuff.
I have no
like,
I don't know. I know we've talked about it,
we've
but
talked
I don't.
about
I mean,
secretors before.
I mean, sure, but for the sake of what we're going over here, the important part is that both the victim and whoever left the semen had these indicators, and the samples were mixed because of
Okay.
how they were extracted in the rape kit. So regardless, and they knew this in the first trial, and they just glossed over that. So like either way, they could not have possibly from that sample said, "Yup, this is
Definitely
Alan.
him.
It can't be anybody else. It's Alan." And they knew that all along. So like that was just fucked up. Callie, stop scratching at the carpet. Stop. Just lie down. I'm so close to being done.
Classic Callie.
Thank you. So, this continues on to say swabs also exhibited blood group substances consistent with type O PGM1. The analyst testified, quote, "I can only say it was either from a non-secretor or person of ABO type O secretor PGM type 1," which I don't know what that
So
means.
either it was from a non-secretor,
Or
so a blank canvas, or
Most
somebody
most
matched
people
the
are
victim.
non-secretors.
somebody who matched the victim in both of these things.
right, and whoever this analyst said, which constitute 38.4% of the total population. So that's a lot of fucking people that it could have been.
Okay.
Dividing that figure by 2, she testifies that only, quote, approximately 19% of males could have contributed. Not only was that division false, but more fundamental were the substances found were entirely consistent with the victim. They could all have originated from the victim. Any male could have been the donor. And then it just goes on to say, see part 2A.1 for a description of the problem of masking and non-quantification and discussion of similar cases. Analysts testified that hair could have, quote unquote, originated from the defendant. So this analyst, who was the only person they had testify,
Was really misleading.
was really fucking misleading.
Yeah.
Obviously, all of this is really compelling to exonerate Alan. But what's even more compelling is the eventual confession of the James brothers that they had thrown Alan under the bus and they didn't even know him until he was accused in 1982. They had never met him until they met him in court.
They just picked a random.
No, Alan was picked up by police because he
And
was
police were like, "Do you know this man?" And they
He
were
was
like,
identified
"Yeah,
in, like, a photo
he
lineup.
did it. I just
Oh God!
Yep. So Alan's conviction was officially overturned in January of 2006, and he walked free after 24 years of imprisonment.
Oh my God!
But Florida investigators were
Ooh.
not, happy about this. So he became a target.
I forgot the topic of this episode, and I was already mad, but now I'm about to be way more mad.
About to be way more mad.
Oh,
So
no.
Alan moved to Tallahassee shortly after his release with the hopes of starting a new life. He got married, he had a child, and tried to live quietly, minding his own business. But as we know, this is an almost impossible feat for people of color. And in 2010 there was like a couple of different reports that had it just circa this time frame, so I'm not 100% sure. Alan was arrested for possession of a controlled substance, commonly referred to as flakka. It's basically a synthetic stimulant that's essentially bath salts. They have like
Yeah,
a slightly
I've heard of
different
that.
chemical
Yeah.
differences, but they are basically identical in terms of effects.
Yeah,
It's
not
like
good.
it's like synthetic meth.
Yeah. He served a brief sentence in jail and was released on probation with an enforced curfew included. And then like basically the curfew was like super exploited and he just kept getting like picked up over and over again for just dumb shit for like, which I previously had an employee who was on probation, and a lot of probation does come with a curfew, and this employee wore an ankle bracelet, so he was also tracked. And when he was at work, we were working in the restaurant industry. You can't always know exactly when you're going to be done. So all he had to do was come to me or whatever manager was on and be like, "Hey, can you check in with my probation officer and confirm that I'm still here and that I'm going to be delayed?" And like we did it anytime that he needed that at work. So it's just like there are ways, if you're out after curfew, a lot of the time it's because you need to grab groceries, you're working late, like it's just such an exploitative addition to the probation system that just
It's
sets
also like
people up to fail at a lot of times.
You have to take public transportation.
Exactly,
or like,
and that can
whatever.
get delayed.
It's like it's a socioeconomic class sort of
Yeah.
situation that just exacerbates
Yeah,
your
it's just so frustrating.
your accusations.
Vulnerability.
Yes, it's really fucked up.
Yeah. And then in 2012, he was charged with attempted murder when a man named Antoine Davis alleged that Allen followed him to his car and opened fire on him during a car chase down Appalachia Parkway in Florida. Allen, however, maintains that Antoine fired a shot at him and he simply stood his ground in compliance with Florida state law. Allen was also legally allowed to carry a firearm because he had been exonerated in the previous case and had a valid conceal and carry permit at the time of this incident. And the possession charge was like not felony possession, so he didn't have to relinquish his weapon or his
It's funny
ability to
how
carry.
like your rights are somehow magically relinquished if you have been previously convicted of some sort of charge, whether or not
I think for some things that's good.
I don't have a problem with that in like gun laws for a lot of the. I'm just making it clear
No,
that
but I mean, in this case, like he already had, like he was already under the suspicion of police. So at this point, he was defending himself.
right. But he
Well, you know
was
what I mean.
defending
It's
himself legally.
He was
I'm
also-
just clarifying that because it was confusing to me.
And my point is not just about like gun possession at all. It's just about like the violations piling up and up
for
and
sure.
up and up and up.
Right,
For
but
people
this-
who can't,
Right, but this was not a violation. That's the only reason I bring it up is that he was legally carrying his firearm. He did not have that right taken from him. And
But
he
there
did
was a kerfuffle, and
There
he
was a
there was a
kerfuffle.
kerfuffle.
shots
yeah.
were fired and Allen did not break any laws.
Yeah.
And
basically.
although we know he didn't commit the crime that he was in prison for so long, he was already under the police's radar before that crime, which is why suspicion
Correct.
was trained on him
Yeah.
and why
yeah,
he
for
was
petty offenses.
It's
Right,
a piling
exact-
up.
It
this
is.
whole
Right.
thing is a piling up.
Oh yeah, he'd been
And-
dogged for most of his adult life.
Yeah.
And it's also possible that like he, was the victim of this, of being, falsely imprisoned, but also like also had committed some other minor crimes.
Sure.
And like
I
was
mean,
getting
he did.
in trouble. You know what I
He
mean?
did.
Like
he got arrested for
he
drug
wasn't
possession. Like
a perfect individual.
no, but you don't have to be a perfect individual to be like respected by the justice system.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
I know you know. I'm just reiterating that that's like why I bring that up. So in this like shootout situation, ballistics evidence supported Allen's description of events, showing that Antoine had fired several shots at Allen's car, leaving at least one bullet lodged in the driver's side door. And there was only like one shot or one casing that matched Allen's firearm, which he had legally, and Antoine did not have his firearm legally. So the charges
Very
against Allen...
ballsy to accuse somebody else of murder when you fired your weapon that you are not legally allowed to have.
Right. Well, attempted murder, but yes, correct. So the charges against Allen were eventually dropped because the prosecution, quote, did not believe there will be sufficient evidence at trial to create a reasonable likelihood of conviction. One bright side to this charge of the attempted murder is that Alan was arrested on these charges and held while he because it was either sit in jail or you had to pay $100,000 in bail. And I think he did eventually pay bail, but he was in jail for
well, you only have to pay a fraction of your bail.
Right, but still, that's
still $10,000. It's a lot.
It's a lot of fucking money.
Regardless of what the bail was set at, he was being held. Sorry. So he was being held, and then he was released on bail with a stipulation in his release that he be monitored with a GPS device if he's going to be out on bail. So when Antoine Davis, the guy who was this guy shot at me, he tried to kill me, was actually shot and killed a couple weeks later, the device that was on Alan's ankle served as an alibi and kept the finger from being pointed at him once again.
God.
Right?
Because if
he for once.
Yeah, for once it came through.
Because it totally would have come back on him.
Right, absolutely.
If he hadn't been wearing that ankle bracelet.
He would have been suspect number 1.
Exactly. And his lawyer.
And potentially falsely imprisoned a second time.
Again.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just this poor guy can't catch a break. His lawyer said, quote, "As it turns out, that may have been a fortunate condition because when the alleged victim was murdered, it was clear that it could not have been Alan Kreutzer because the GPS showed that he was nowhere near that occurrence. Otherwise, I don't know what the outcome of his case would have been."
I do. It would have been another life imprisonment, whatever.
Seriously, he already, it's just the worst. So
Makes
Alan,
you want to just move to an island.
I know.
And
an island called Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this happens.
It's constant.
Yeah.
So Alan continues to try and rebuild his life, feeling like the justice system is trying to make him out to be someone that he isn't. He stated in a 2015 press conference that he wasn't, quote, "that monster they keep trying to make me out to be. I'm not going to be that monster," he said. "I'm trying to do the right thing." For years, Alan has said he's felt like police and prosecutors have targeted him since his release from state prison. Quote, "I've been told by several people, don't even jaywalk, don't spit on the sidewalk."
He's a really easy target.
Yeah. Here's hoping that he is just being left the fuck alone and getting to just live his life. He did get a settlement from the state after his wrongful conviction. So he was awarded $1.25 million as compensation for that wrongful conviction, which included a $250,000 lump sum payment and then $6,700 a month for 20 years so that he's collecting income.
Set up. Yeah.
And it should be, I think those settlements are not taxed if they come from the state for a situation like this, but I don't remember how that works. They shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be.
But it also would not shock me if they were because this whole country is garbage.
Yeah. Okay, so he had a $1.25 million settlement.
Yep.
And that is paid through the $250
So
lump.
for the first thing he got was that lump sum of $250,000, and then after that he gets basically a salary of $6,700 a month.
I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they did tax it.
They might.
They're
I feel
fucking
like
sons of bitches.
I feel like we've speculated about this before and got really mad at the answer, so I don't want to look it up again because I'm scared.
Let's assume yes, because that's probably a yes.
But yeah. So that.
But also, I mean, that's yes. Hopefully he's set up, and God, that's a lot of time wasted.
Mm-hmm.
That's the least the state could do. I guess
it's a quarter of a life.
Yes,
and then followed by several more years of being basically exploited at every opportority and wrongfully
It's more than
accused
the
of
amount of
bullshit.
time that we've known each other.
Yeah.
He was in prison for a crime he did not commit. A horrific crime against a woman and a child, which couldn't have made his life in prison very easy.
Oh God, no.
Oh, it's so sad and so scary.
And again, just being
the person who did it. I guess
out there,
right? I mean, the James brothers confessed, so hopefully they did it.
I think they did end up.
We just don't know, the driver or something.
I think they did end up getting the third individual.
Oh, okay.
I just only focused on Alan for this case, so I didn't go down that rabbit hole because I was already at 3 pages, but I'm pretty sure they ended up getting the right person. Because it's obviously someone that the fucking James brothers knew, and they were just protecting their friend, or trying to put the majority of the
fucking
shit
up a stranger's life
on a stranger.
Somebody out of the clear blue sky.
That detail that they did not even know him and had never seen him until the day they were in court.
Which means that the police suggested him to them.
Right.
Which is not a proper investigation fucking technique to be like, well, was it this guy?
Was it him?
To the other suspects?
Because they identified this guy. They said this guy was with you. Yeah.
What the fuck?
It's so fucked up. And it probably not probably. You know it happens every day.
We know how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Anyway,
Christ.
that is a case.
Well done.
I actually like that all three of us kind of took a different tack.
I did too. This is kind of an all over the place episode, but I really like it.
It's an all over the place episode.
It's a hodgepodge. It's a Gal's Peg hodgepodge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Thank you to our fan sponsor, Kristen Aponic.
If you happen to panic a pronunciation guide for your name, send it our way.
Yes. And we will talk to you next week.
Yes, we'll
We
see you
love
next
you.
week.
Bye-bye.